Hello and welcome to Courts Today by LiveLaw. I'm Devojit Das, and in today's segment, we'll take a look at significant legal developments ranging from constitutional governance and judicial oversight of investigators to free speech and regulatory scrutiny in higher education. Let's begin. There seems to be no other place appropriate enough to start than this. The Supreme Court has been examining a presidential reference on whether governors can indefinitely delay assent to state legislation. Responding to the constitutional query, the central government argued that while a governor cannot sit on bills endlessly, it would be inappropriate to prescribe rigid timelines for assent, citing constitutional silence on such limits. The case stems from multiple recent standoffs between governors and elected state governments, particularly in opposition-led states where bills have remained pending for months. The Centre, over the course of the hearings, acknowledged that such delays may disrupt legislative functioning, but insisted that Article 200 does not mandate fixed deadlines. With the hearings now being concluded, Supreme Court's upcoming judgment could set a critical precedent on federal balance and legislative accountability. In another crucial ruling, the Supreme Court upheld a Delhi High Court direction to register FIRs against former CBI officials, including senior officers Neeraj Kumar and Vinod Pandey, for alleged misconduct during investigations dating back to the year 2000. The complaints by Vijay Agrawal and Sheesh Ram Saini accused the officers of criminal intimidation, wrongful confinement, forgery, and tampering of evidence, allegations backed by specific incidents such as coercive tactics to withdraw a complaint and misuse of seizure powers. Despite a preliminary CBI inquiry that found no offense, the High Court had directed FIR registration, emphasizing prima facie cognizable offences. The Supreme Court agreed, holding that preliminary inquiries cannot override judicial directions when serious accusations are involved. The judgment sends a strong message that even law enforcers are not immune from scrutiny, especially when there's credible evidence of power abuse. Staying with the Supreme Court, a public interest litigation sought to cancel the India-Pakistan Asia Cup match scheduled for September 14th, citing public sentiment in the aftermath of the Pahalgam terror attack that claimed the lives of army personnel. The petitioners contended that playing a cricket match with Pakistan so soon after the incident disrespects the sacrifices of the armed forces and urged the court to treat this as a national interest issue. They also called for the BCCI to be brought under a national sports regulatory framework. However, the Supreme Court declined urgent listing, implicitly signaling that judicial intervention in international sporting fixtures must be grounded in law, not emotion. The court's decision respects the boundary between legal adjudication and executive policy, especially in complex areas like sports diplomacy. Moving on, the Allahabad High Court recently granted interim protection to SRM University and its officials in an FIR alleging that it offered law degrees without a valid approval from the Bar Council of India. The university argued that it had followed due process and that the FIR was premature, as regulatory clarifications were pending. The court acknowledged the academic and administrative complexity, restrained the police from taking any coercive actions until further orders. This case underscores ongoing friction between regulatory bodies and private universities and raises questions about the scope of criminal liability and educational compliance matters. In a significant judgment, the Telangana High Court has drawn a line on political speech online. It held the police cannot mechanically register FIRs over harsh or critical political comments on social media unless the speech clearly incites violence or threatens public order. Justice Tukaramji quashed 3 FIRs against the individual in question for posts criticizing the state government and Chief Minister Revant Reddy. The court emphasized that such critique falls under free political expression protected by Article 19(1)(a), and restrictions under Article 19(2) must be narrowly tailored to only those exceptional cases like defamation or imminent violence. This decision strengthens safeguards for dissenting voices in online spaces. In another crucial turn of events, the Supreme Court acquitted a man who had been sentenced to death in a child rape murder case, citing a strong inference of evidence planting. The court found major investigative flaws: no credible forensic link, inconsistent witness statements, and suspicion that evidence was manipulated to build the prosecution's case. Given these defects, the Supreme Court determined that conviction did not meet the standard of proof beyond reasonable doubt. This acquittal reaffirms that capital punishment demands very high evidentiary integrity. In a politically sensitive matter, the Supreme Court has formed a Special Investigation Team, or an SIT, comprising senior Hindu and Muslim officers to probe the assault case arising from the Akola riots. The bench has observed that law enforcement must rise above communal or other biases. The SIT setup reflects the court's insistence on impartial and credible inquiry, especially in cases charged with communal tensions. The investigation will be watched closely as a test of the justice system's ability to handle sensitive social fault lines. Finally, in an important decision, the Bombay High Court ruled on insurance policy interpretation. It reaffirmed the doctrine of contra proferentem, that is, where policy terms are ambiguous, the interpretation biased in favor of the insured must prevail. Here, the insurer had contested a claim citing vague wording. The court held that ambiguous terms cannot be used to deny coverage. That ruling protects policyholders from being denied benefits due to unclear or poorly drafted policy clauses. That wraps up today's edition of Courts Today. For continuous, reliable coverage of India's legal developments, head to www.livelawmedia.in. I'm Devojit Das. Thank you for watching.